Um, yep. So my name is Jacqueline Campbell, and I just wanted to share. Let me get my screen set up for you. Um, I just wanted to share just a short presentation to kind of give an idea of how's the screen sum up for good for seeing the slides. Awesome. To kind of go through some terminology, because when I was first learning about machine learning and AI, there was a lot of terms being thrown at me, and to ensure that the discussion for the breakout room is not get confusing, I just wanted to go over some terminology. So the basic thing is like, what is all this? And so I broke it down to its components, and that's what the figure is for. So the first component is basically artificial intelligence. This is encompasses the broader thing that is the broad term for everything that is considered artificial intelligence. And it really is basically a program that has the ability to learn from data or reason like humans. It's a very broad term. Next is machine learning. So these take a little bit further down into a terminology about, the ability to learn without being really programmed specifically to learn, but like really analyze and interpret the data and gives out a good set of data based on what was given. Break it down even further, now we have deep learning. Usually this is also kind of mentioned with neural networks. It works on really going down now into focusing on processing tasks or words. And I put on a figure here just to kind of show what a neural network is, and where the input is the cat sat on A, and it would go through the different nodes within it, and you can see that they're all linked to come out with a final prediction of 97% that it's Matt. Next is natural language processing. This is a way for it to read, decipher, understand language, and recognize patterns. We actually encountered this a lot. Like I put in an example here from just an email I was writing. It's for the title is this, the heading is meeting, and I put hello, I'd like to, and you see in the gray, the words like to are in gray, and that is basically natural language processing that's basically gone through and says, hey, I recognize this pattern. Is this what you want next? Um, what everybody is now kind of like really excited about is the generative AI, which is this is a subset of machine learning as we get farther into our subset of circles here. And this basically takes the data that you have given it and now creates a whole new data set. It's basically as it says, generating data. Within that, we have large language models. Now, this is something that was developed from other companies right now, including Meta and ChatGPT, which is now owned by Microsoft. Um, and these not only understand and generate human language, but they can even predict this next word or next sentence and do give out like a lot of useful information. But however, again, you also hear about it giving out um different, what's called hallucinations, bad data because it doesn't have enough. It needs to be very specific in what it does. Now, this is basically just everything here for you need to learn, kind of like the terminology that we have. And these are the main components. The one thing that I want to stress, especially for this meeting, is that there's a pretty big difference between natural language processing and large language models. And in particular, it's because the large language models are within the generative AI circle. Natural language processing is not generative AI. It is using what has been um, already in the model and what is the highest prediction. Just like when I had the example of, writing an email, the sentences there, that's basically a prediction. Are you going to write this next? We have interacted with natural language processing multiple times. If you either have Alexa or Siri, that is an example of natural language processing. Whereas large language models is within the generative AI, and that's ChatGPT. Um, the main focus for these breakout rooms, I just want to focus on those, is basically the artificial intelligence about how programs are likely to learn and reason from humans, and machine learning because we have, as databases, we have a large amount of data that can be used for machine learning. One great example is technically genome annotation is machine learning because you're giving it data for it to interpret. The AlphaFold is machine learning. The other topic we'll be discussing in the breakout sessions or breakout groups is natural language processing. This is where we're just going to go basically for biocuration. How can we use computers to better read, decipher, and understand the papers that we do for literature search and data mining for our database? And with that, I believe my terminology is done, and I'll pass it to Anna Rita.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. How this is gonna work, so now we are going to have a breakout room session of about 30 minutes. Thanks, Jackie. There are two topics, main topics. One is about natural language processing for biocuration. And the second one is how database can make data ready for AI models. So the symbol like per two, it means like it's per or x, well. It means that I created two breakout room session per each topic, so that we can have about 10 people's maximum per breakout room. We think that this is the right number to have a fair discussion. But of course, if we see that one breakout room has a few people, I will merge the two breakout rooms that they are on the same topic. So for the people that have never participated in our roundtable, so we usually have nominate at the beginning of the breakout room session and host. In this case, we have already some of the steering committee member that will be hosting the breakout room. Then we will ask someone to volunteer to be a scribe, which is someone that is responsible for taking notes, but you can also decide to have a collaborative way or taking notes. And then the reporter is someone that will report at the end of the breakout room session with a short talk of 3-4 minutes about the breakout room discussion. And this one can be the same as the host or the scribe or somebody else. So I copy here in the chat the link to the Google Drive folder where you can find the Google Docs where to take notes. And as a reminder, I invite everybody that is joining today to respect the code of conduct that is like summarized at the top of the Google Doc, and to be respectful and inclusive during the discussion. So with this, you can choose whichever breakout room you want to attend. I will open the rooms and I will send a reminder 5 minutes before the end, so you can decide to start wrapping up. And with this, I open the breakout room and I wish you excellent discussion. Okay, welcome back. So I hope the discussion was constructive and helpful. I know that the time probably was not enough, but we usually have 1 hour of we have just this time. So I at the end we had just two breakout rooms. So I will start with the report from the breakout rooms about how databases can make data ready for AI. So who is going to report for this breakout room?
Yeah, I can, and others can jump in if they want
Okay.
to add anything. So yeah, we kind of started the conversation on just kind of the scope of how we can like improve data curation related to AI and machine learning. There was some talk on how important metadata is and just collaborating and working with machine learning and AI experts. It's very similar to other bioinformatics problems, like how to really define the problem and to understand the biology and the use cases and what they're actually classifying and make sure like the metadata is well established. So really stressing that part of it and that we could potentially come up with some best practices or maybe some education on both ends. You know what I mean? Maybe like how to teach curators kind of the most common things they should know about these AI methods, but also these experts that are interested in using this data, kind of what they should be looking for and how that what's in that metadata and how that's important on what they're doing. And that was brought back to standards. Maybe there may be some standards we can do to help promote that aspect of it. Um, there's a lot of talk that probably kind of overlapped the other group on using natural language and large language models to do ontology annotations. There's some work done by the RGD and with the Alliance on annotating different ontology terms and what that looks like. I think within the scope of our breakout group, there seemed to be still room for improvement. You know what I mean? I think they're happy with some of the results, but again, it may be still in the 50s or 60% of catching things or and that may be more specific fine tuning. So if we um have more, model specific, say I'm working on maze, we have some maze data or maze annotations that we know that can help fine tune these models, or maybe can use it better generate some of the prompts like, hey, here's some good examples of our data that may help you guide some of this. Could be maybe a role that we could potentially play as AgBio or database providers. Um, Within that, there's also some talk on like the guidelines for reviewers of papers. Maybe we can help how to evaluate people that are using AI for and a lot of different things, but even annotations or curating data can we help provide how to like evaluate and what they should be looking for, how that data could be potentially put back into databases. And then maybe one other point is that maybe make sure we have a way to make sure the data is well qualified. So this was kind of talk on using AI for gene model annotation, like the structural annotations of genes, to make sure that we're just, if we have some gold standard or manually annotated gene models, that these aren't just added back into the main group where people can't figure out what is an AI predicted gene model versus a manually annotated one. And there may be things in between, I mean, things that have evidence support and some that don't, or so maybe just like coming up with some best practices again or standards to annotate things that are generated through AI and maybe some of those best practices. And I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to that.
Mm. Uh, Thank you, Carson, for reporting. Is anything else that someone from this breakout room wants to add? Um, Seems not. So I will move with the other breakout room about natural language processing for biocuration. Who is reporting?
That would be me.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing was like, basically, has your database started using natural language processing or hasn't considered it? There were a number that are considering it. But Hannah gave a good example of how they kind of looked into it, where they put in a QTL paper into ChatGPT, and it was actually able to pull out some information and really mentioned how this was a great tool to kind of assist curators. And Tara mentioned it has um, literature creation kind of entity recognition. So it's not exactly they still have to go through it and filter it out, but like it's a way for them to pull in some of the papers. And then Ratbase actually has an NLP to get ontology terms from manuscripts. It's something within their process. Um, Another thing that we discussed was basically what are the really some of the major challenges for, using this. And what was discussed was actually during kind of the testing of using natural language processing or basically using ChatGPT to become a natural language processor to pull the data out, was that really the quality of the data or the quality of the paper and how well it's written is a major change or major um, um, contributor of how well it will pull out the data. And then finding relative papers to kind of help to um, even train your data sets is really important. Um, and talked about current ways that we've kind of different databases has changed kind of their curation process to make things easier. Jody Human brought up really nice triple module that they made for their curation process, which then made me think of what can I use on GitHub to make our curation process. So we kind of did something similar, but it's on GitHub. And then Tara has small separate piece of software to kind of help with paper tracking. So everybody's kind of using some sort of technology to assist in data curation, but there hasn't been any major focus on natural language processing um, to bring it in. And then, like, can natural language processing even help us? The question is, of course, it can help us. Some examples exactly is what Wormbase has is the Text Espresso Central that we have already known about before, and it's something that can be brought in. But I think um, we might have to look into that more further because I think there was something in particular that was done for text mining. Um, if if this was something that we brought up as a working group, the main thing was like basically through this whole process, even if we did use natural language processing, there would still have to be a human involved. Like how many hours would this even save us if we used it? Um, this technology is still pretty new. The trust is kind of iffy. And this is a new tech, like I just mentioned, with very any guidance. Could a working group kind of help with guidance and figuring out, you know, what kind of data really should be used for training a model? What kind of prompts should really be used? Because that was also another thing when you're talking to or when you're going back and forth from your model, basically putting up a prompt saying, you got to go, what's called, I can't remember what other people call it, but it's like character, action, various other things you need to put in your prompts so that your model knows exactly what you're asking. Um, so there was a number of different things, but it's basically a question of like uh, we don't really know enough. Do like how would we train? We'd have to train individual models for each database. Natural language natural language processing can't really curate everything because doing it with a GWAS paper might be too hard. So there was a discussion of like this could be useful, but not sure like it needs more work onto how. So that was a general consensus.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Someone else wants to add anything to about this breakout room? Well, if not, So I want to thank everybody for joining us. So this roundtable will help us to understand the focus of eventually a working group on this topic as we have done in the past. So thank you so much. And to those that express an interest in joining a putative working group on these topics, we may follow up inviting you to join them. So with that, I want to thank you, everybody, and see you next month for the regular monthly webinar.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.